They've already beaten the Eagles twice this season, so now the Cowboys are looking to sweep an opponent in the regular season and postseason for the first time since the merger back in 1970. Dallas owns the stat sheet from the previous two games. In particular, the run game, they've outrushed Philly more than 2-1. Eagles-Cowboys is Game 2 on Saturday evening. To preview, we have two men who make it their livings to know these teams inside and out. To my far right, Bob Brookover of the Philadelphia Inquirer. To my immediate left here, Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Guys, the final game of the season treated both these teams completely differently. I would imagine the pulse of the city different in Philly than it is in Dallas. Bob, let's get started with you. What's it like in Philly?
Well, the pulse between the fans and the team itself are completely different. The fans are in a mad panic. They think this is the beginning of another bad ending to a postseason, and they've seen a lot of them. They've seen a lot of postseason wins, but they all end badly. The team, on the other hand, has kind of forgotten about the game, or at least the bad parts of the game, and is looking forward to another chance to play the Cowboys. I would think they can't feel like they can't play any worse. I would think they have to feel that way going into this game. It would be impossible to play worse than they played Sunday night.
Well, the Cowboys are certainly feeling good and flying high. It doesn't take much for it to go from doom and gloom to expectations that are through the roof. You know, they think they have a chance to finally end that playoff drought, the win. They haven't won a playoff game since 1996. They finally think that they can finally, do that and get that streak off their back and possibly make a Super Bowl run for the first time since 1995. That's what it's like here in Dallas. The players know, though, it's going to be tough to win 3 games against the same team. They had the same spot 2 years ago, and they lost to the Giants. But they think this team is a different team. This is a different year, and they think they can get over the hump this time.
Now, guys, both quarterbacks provide reasons to believe. Tony Romo really hot recently, 11 touchdowns, only 2 picks since Thanksgiving. Donovan McNabb, a much better postseason resume than Tony Romo. I realize what buildings you're in here, fellas. Going to ask the question, though, anyway. Bob, you first. Which quarterback would you rather have playing for your team?
Well, even though I think Tony Romo is maybe the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now, I'd rather have Donovan McNabb. He's got 9 playoff wins, and he's played tremendously in the division rounds and in the wild card rounds. He struggled in the championship games and the one Super Bowl he played, although it wasn't an awful Super Bowl as many people would think it was, but I would rather have Donovan just because he knows how to win in these kinds of games, and he knows that he didn't play well last week. I mean, if you look at this team, they feel like, yes, they got beaten up pretty good, but they can look at a lot of plays in that game. There was a Deshaun Jackson deep pass in that game that Donovan overthrew him. There were 6 drops by the wide receivers. This team feels like if they can make those plays that they didn't make in the first game, that it can be a much different game this time.
There's no question that Tony Romo is playing well. He's getting some of those demons off his back to the albatross of December and not playing well late this season. He got that off his back this season. But again, until you've done it, you haven't done it. And
yes,
he hasn't played well in the playoffs. And right now, if I had to pick a quarterback to win one game, certainly the first playoff game, you have to go with Donovan McNabb. We still remember the bobble in Seattle. We still remember the Giants game. We threw the interception at the end of the season. Tony Romo has to change that legacy. But right now, you have to go with McNabb.
Clarence, if the Cowboys... Go ahead, Bob.
Isn't this the biggest ghost, though? Isn't this the biggest ghost that Tony faced? I mean, this is a ghost of Christmas past. This is the meanest one. He's proven he can win in December, but now he's got to prove that he can win a playoff game, something he hasn't done, something Wade hasn't done. Right,
no, and that's the challenge for this team. That's the challenge for this year, and they've talked about that all year. First they had to get over the December hurdle, and now it's about winning a playoff game. So, yeah, that's the only question you have about this team, because I think that the matchups favor the Cowboys. They seem to have the Eagles' number.
Matchup may favor the Cowboys, but if Dallas goes one and done in the playoffs, might be some repercussions for the coach. I'm going to come back to you in a minute there, Clarence. But first, if the Eagles are the ones to go one and done, Bob, the repercussions happen on the roster, not so much the coaching staff, right?
Well, Andy Reid got an extension this year, so that he's not going anywhere. I mean, there might be some coaching changes. There's some rumblings that Marty Morningwig might end up in Cleveland if they don't keep Mangini. But it's more about the quarterback than anything. And Donovan was actually asked specifically today if he thinks he'll be back if the Eagles don't win this first-round playoff game. And his response was, I've answered this question every year. Do I have to answer it all the time? I'm going to be here for a long time. I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, maybe he will be. I think he'll be back next year. But the Eagles definitely have a decision to to make there because you're talking about Kevin Cobb's going to be going into the last year of his contract. You drafted him. I think you drafted him to play because you traded a first-round pick to the Cowboys, who's Anthony Spencer, and who's become a pretty big impact player for that Cowboys defense. So do you just let Kevin Cobb, play out his contract and then potentially go somewhere else? They have a real difficult decision to make there at the quarterback position.
Or maybe they should go back and redraft Ricky Williams and let Donovan go to somewhere else. I mean, it's funny that, the people are still questioning Don McNabb after all these years. But going with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones does not want to get rid of Wade Phillips. He does not want to make a change at coach, and I don't think he will make a change, even in a loss, unless it's 44-6 as it was a year ago. Then, all bets are off. But if the Cowboys play tough, and even if they play tough and lose, Wade Phillips is coming back. And regarding other players on the roster, the one player who may have to move on is Roy Williams. He's had a terrible year here. He's going to get his money anyway, but the Cowboys may pay him to go away.
Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and Bob Brookover of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Guys, thank you very much.